Hey, DC. How are you? Huh?
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's for me for staring me. Doesn't. No. I love it. That's where your mind went. Were you arrested?
I call this meeting to order for Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Susan Payne.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald. Commissioner Crystal Guthrie.
Here.
Commissioner Stephen Burnett is absent. Commissioner Warren Robinson.
Present.
Commissioner Josh Reardon.
Here.
Commissioner Mark Tapley.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Dylan. We are going to start with the invocation given by Pastor Matt Soloria of Bethel Baptist Church. It is so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. And then we're going to proceed with the pledge given by, it's supposed to be Commissioner Burnett. Would you lead us in the pledge? All right, thank you. That will be Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, sorry. Yeah.
All right, let's pray. Father, we come to you and we pray, Lord, that your will would be done in each one of us. Lord, we thank you for the fact that Jesus has all authority, but we thank you that you have given authority to the state. We thank you for the police officers who protect our community. We thank you for the public servants that serve in so many capacities. Lord, thank you for their willingness to serve. Lord, we know oftentimes it is a thankless task. And Lord, I pray that you would reward them and bless them and encourage them as they serve our community. Lord, we pray for your wisdom, your guidance, and for you to be glorified in everything that each person says and does. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Matt. Okay, we are going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Robinson. Can we put up the vote, please? And motion passes 6-0. I should mention that Commissioner Burnett is absent. I apologize for that, Dylan. Okay, we're going to move on to presentations. Do we have somebody here from the Community of Hope? Hi. If you will come up. It's a presentation on potential program to offer income support, case management, and sheltering services to those experiencing homelessness. And if you'll just state your name and who you're with.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Nicole Martinez. I'm the Executive Director of the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope, all the way across the desert in Las Cruces. I've been invited here today to talk about some of our programming and services that we provide for our unsheltered constituents in Las Cruces. We sit on city-owned property, so the City of Las Cruces owns where we are. And it's, I have the lease agreement with the City of Las Cruces, and we sublet to other agencies who are assisting people who are experiencing poverty and might have disabilities or health issues. In order to be on that campus, they have to be experiencing any of those issues to have that lease agreement. And just quickly, I'll talk about the other agencies that exist. We have Jardín de los Niños, which is a child care center for families who are experiencing homelessness or precariously housed. El Caldito Soup Kitchen, Amador Health Centers, we have medical behavioral substance use recovery program on the campus there. Casa de Peregrinos is a food pantry where people who are experiencing food insecurity can get food. And then there's our agency, the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. We started out as a day shelter, but have evolved to understand that while that's still really important to meet people where they're at and take care of basic needs, that Ultimately, we want to make sure people have income and that people are exiting their homelessness to housing opportunities. Last fiscal year, the Community of Hope housed 1,541 people, including 475 children. So we have lots of different types of housing programs. We have a lot of Department of Housing and Urban Development funding, rental assistance vouchers. We have vouchers for our veterans specifically through a VA program. We partner with over 100 landlords annually, and we're also landlords ourselves. Caseworkers are visiting the homes of people that we transition into their own apartments at least monthly, if not more. And clients contribute 30% of their income toward the rent, which is the idea of affordable housing, that people should only be paying 30% of their income toward a rent. We also have a program called Camp Hope. This is located directly behind our facility. We started this in November of 2011 because we found that we had a lot of unsanctioned camps around the city of Las Cruces, and it made sense for an organization like the Community of Hope with all of the wraparound services to absorb an emergency shelter for people. We had to rezone the property to a planned unit development. We can house up to 50 people temporarily at Camp Hope, and those who are residing there are encouraged to contribute 6 hours of service, and they have to work with caseworkers on a housing plan, do a coordinated entry that's required by HUD or the VA to obtain housing. We do also have one-time assistance, things like that, that aren't as restrictive, but we are always working with people on that housing plan because some people are able to resolve their homelessness without the help of Community of Hope in terms of a rental voucher. So we, again, wanted to keep a safe place for people to live while they transition into housing. We thought it made sense to have people in our backyards instead of downtown Main Street and other areas. Last year, we sheltered 256 people at Camp Hope. I don't know if you can see, it won't show up on the screen. You can see that solar panel, that's literally where my building is, and Camp Hope is right behind that. We support Camp Hope through an annual fundraiser. We have people who raise money for us because they also agree that they'd rather have people close to services, close to bathrooms and trash cans and caseworkers and substance use recovery programs and food rather than in areas where they're unsanctioned. We do registration for each camper. They sign agreements that we have, so some rules, and a lot of those are come up with by the people who are living there. We have a camp manager that's elected by their peers. Staff approves that. They're given gift card incentives to help operate the camp. We have a safety team also made up of residents who are staying at Camp Hope. We use walkie-talkies with the staff. We have camp leaders, and we also have paid security that's around Community of Hope, walking around every single one of the buildings. So they're not just stationed at Camp Hope, but they're walking that entire campus to make sure that it's safe. The average length of stay in fiscal year 2023 to 24 was 73 days for somebody residing at Camp Hope. This is just some operational agreements. You can see what that looks like. Again, just want to reiterate that a lot of these rules were made up by the camp residents themselves. So it's a lot. They're very self-governing. They want to make sure that they get to stay at Camp Hope and that it stays a part of the Community of Hope. These are some of the intake forms. They're very basic, but when we're doing a housing plan, it becomes a lot more involved and detailed. We also do a Camp Hope participant assumption of risk and waiver of liability for people who are staying at Camp Hope. These are just some of the documents that we had to submit as we were rezoning the area. We used Bureau of Reclamation best practices for camping. We also had to have these things permitted by the Constructions Industries Division since the City of Las Cruces doesn't permit their own property for some of these issues. We also had to follow landscaping plans, everything you would imagine if you're rezoning an area. I learned a lot as a social worker about rezoning, more than I ever wanted to. We do have a camp garden. Right now it's actually being used as a shade structure since we've just had heat coming on so quickly. We do have cooking facilities, we have bathrooms, and an outdoor kitchen. We also had really strong partnerships with NMSU, so we utilized their Engineers Without Boundaries to help us with our drainage plans, with the sites, three-sided structures that are around those tents. And then we also worked with the geography department too to help us with a lot of that final site plan. We also realize that people who we're working with often have issues with access to income, so we want to provide that. We do have a Social Security disability program that was come up by the Social Security Administration. So we staff somebody who helps them gather their medical records, do their function reports. Last year, we assisted 95 people with that service. It's called SOAR. And then in 2018, we started the Mano a Mano Day Labor Program. That is city-funded. It allows us to take people out to a mix of city-owned properties, so going out to parks, areas that are owned by the City of Las Cruces, but that might need some beautification. They can work for 5 hours, they get paid, they get fed, and they get connected to resources. And we also have a couple of hotspot trucks. So we noticed that with the pandemic that we started to see a lot more people become homeless as we saw rents skyrocket in Las Cruces. Lots of unsanctioned encampments around our community, and because we don't think that shelters are going to be the long-term solution to ending homelessness, housing does that. We wanted to at least make it livable around those areas as public hygiene and safety issues arose. So the hotspot teams worked in tandem with our Las Cruces Police Department and the codes enforcement and a lot of the businesses as well, where there are unsanctioned encampments, and they go out and they take the people who are experiencing homelessness, clean up all around those areas, and then try to refer clients over to the community of hope and talk to them about whatever issues have led them to homelessness so that we can help address them. So we have these 2 vans, the 2 hotspot trucks, and 4 drivers. And then we provide, food through El Caldito Soup Kitchen, which is also part of our campus. It's a huge collaborative approach between the City of Las Cruces and some of the service agencies there. We do have rules that the clients sign. They also sign when they're receiving funds. We're sending out all the tax documents and making sure that we're looking at agency policies and procedures. And you can just see the benefits that come from that. We also, it's not on here, but I just want to also just quickly say that we have an outreach team that's also funded by the City of Las Cruces. So if there are unsanctioned encampments, while we have the supervisors through Mano a Mano and the clients themselves cleaning up around that area, the outreach team will also come out and sign them up for Camp Hope, sign them up for housing, do a coordinated entry and assessment. They're also, making sure people have water or the things that they need while they're living outside, because the last thing we want is for people to die of exposure. And so we make sure, again, that we're trying to utilize as many services as we can and heavily lean on our City of Las Cruces partners, while also making sure that we're coming up with innovative but also best practices as we're serving the unhoused community in Las Cruces. Thank you.
I have a question.
Is there another part, or do you want to do questions now, or?
My Mayor, Commissioner Robinson, my part is completed. Natalie Green is with the City of Las Cruces, so she has a separate presentation.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. Go
So
ahead.
if you want to,
It's very quick.
Sure.
It's very
I'm here.
impressive.
I'm here.
Are you getting bids or calls from people around the nation? Because it seems like you established a model that is workable. Do you have people from outside Las Cruces come and ask, how you guys do this? Do you have visitors all the time? Do you have requests all the time?
Mayor, Commissioner Robinson, yes, all the time. Especially during COVID, because we're a non-congregate shelter, and so I think we had about 2 people that had COVID during that time. While I can't say that it's appropriate for every community, I think that we all have a responsibility to take care of our own in the capacity that we have been given or can. And if I can help people not reinvent the wheel, then I'm happy to share that knowledge. So I talk to people on a weekly basis. I mean, I had a conversation today with what's happening in Espanol. I'll be going up to Taos, but I also have had lots of tours, including people from Alamogordo over the years, several times, Albuquerque. I've had people from California. I've had all the way from Hawaii to Ohio to Georgia. It's pretty constant talking to other communities about that. And while I'm really passionate about what we're doing and the innovative approaches that we've taken, again, I always just make sure that I'm talking to people about, if you're going to do some of these things, that you make sure that you have an end to homelessness for people so that it's tied to not only the infrastructure, but those services and then the housing component as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, then I have some questions. What is your success rate as far as getting people into permanent housing?
Mayor, I think that the success rate depends on what your definition of success might be. So I would argue that 256 people sleeping in my backyard is a measure of success, that I've had people who were safely in our area with all the access to the amenities. In terms of housing, that part is harder to capture. Overall, we housed 1,541 people that came to our facility. We would be housing a lot more if we had a lot more housing opportunities. We had hundreds of our apartments be bought out by corporations and put caps on a number of people that we could transition people into.
Right.
So it takes a longer time. We also might have somebody who leaves Camp Hope and they didn't leave and get housed. They left on their own, but then later they get housed. So that doesn't always get captured in some of
Right.
that data.
So, yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how do I put this? The goal is to get them transitioned, though, right? I understand the goal is to give them shelter. I get that, and I like what you're doing. I actually heard your presentation a few years ago at an OCDEC meeting. You were up here for that. So I've heard this before. I'm very familiar with what you do. I'm just trying to figure out, I understand that your goal is to shelter them, but is there a goal of creating some kind of independence, or how long, I guess, like how long do they get to stay? Are there policies on that?
Mayor, we do not have policies on that, but our last fiscal year, the stay was about 73 days. We have flexibility because it's not HUD funded, it's not government funded. Okay. And we've gone back and forth, especially as we were trying to figure out how to manage something like Camp Hope.
Right.
Hadn't really been done in our area before. And so we were trying to figure out if we should have people stay for 3 months or 6 months, but we know that sometimes that can be arbitrary. Many of the people that we're working with have trauma, and some of them have mental health issues, and so they might take longer. And if I just, after 3 months, said, okay, you're back on the street, I've been doing a disservice to that person or that business owner who now has somebody camped out behind their business. Whereas I'm willing to take that on as that service provider. Yes, we're working toward housing stability, we're working toward independence, and like I said, we're housing 1,000 people a year, so we know that we are transitioning people to that. It's just not always a direct pipeline from Camp Hope. So for some, it just takes
Right.
a longer time.
Sure.
But that is the ultimate goal.
Okay. And then, so you said you're not government funded, but you said you receive funds from the city of Las Cruces, or?
Yes, to clarify, Mayor, so we have a lot of different types of funding.
Okay.
I do have lots of HUD vouchers, rental vouchers, and that also pays for my supportive services. We have VA funding. I have New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority funding, and then we have a lot of funding that comes from the city of Las Cruces. The thing that's not funded is Camp Hope.
Okay.
So we just use
Right, and you mentioned that you do
donations.
fundraisers for
That's
that.
the only program that's
Okay,
not.
so for the rest of, Camp Hope aside, so for the rest of it, can you tell me, or can you share what your annual budget is?
Our annual budget, Mayor, is around $6 million.
$6 million, okay. And do you know how much the city of Las Cruces provides of that $6 million?
I would have to look at what that might be. I would say that the most that the city of Las Cruces has been contributing has been for the mano a mano day labor program, because we're paying out for people, we're paying wages.
Right.
And so that's a large part of the program. Then there's the outreach program. Then they also pay for, we have CDBG funding. I think we get like 30 grand for that, so not even enough for a full-time person, and that's to be a shelter. And then they have some discretionary funding where we staff our person who does Social Security benefits.
Okay.
And then they've had some ARPA funding that's come through, so we're utilizing that funding, and then some tenant-based rental assistance. So we have a hefty portion of our funding does come from the city of Las Cruces. So we have a lot of support from the city.
Okay. And how many employees do you have?
I currently have 42 employees.
42, okay, all right. I'm just, I mean, I like what you're doing, and I can see your passion for it. I appreciate that. I actually run a nonprofit myself and help people in need, and I too have very much a passion for that. I do very much focus on independence, and so obviously that's why I'm asking those questions, but I do understand there are a lot of barriers to that as well. So I'm trying to translate what you're doing into our community and how that would work in our community. And so that's why I'm asking the questions. Okay, so, all right, well, I think I could ask you a million more questions, but my fellow commissioners might get upset with me, so.
Mayor, if I could just say, when I started at the Community of Hope 19 years ago, I think we had about 9 staff. We started small, and like I said, we were just a day shelter, so we were giving showers and a blanket at night and see you later. And while that was really important, and we continued to do that, it's taken time, and it's taken trust with our city to trust some of the programming that we were doing. It's taken trust from our clients. So, start small. Like we own a home that houses 4 women who used to be on the streets, and that's 4 women that you don't see, and that made a big impact in our community, and you just sort of work from there. And just remember, we're close, so willing to help as needed.
Right. Okay. I was going to ask you another question, and it just like a flash just went out of my mind. That happens to me sometimes when I have a lot on my mind. Okay. Well, if I think of it, I'll call you back up if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Must be for the tents.
Good evening, Natalie Green, Housing Administrator for the City of Las Cruces. And then hopefully my PowerPoint will load as well. As an introduction to our
Do you have a separate PowerPoint?
Yes, yeah.
Do we have that on here, Dylan? Do you know?
I don't believe a separate PowerPoint was provided, no.
Okay.
It was a link.
It was in the
Yeah.
packet.
And then I also brought an updated flash drive with that PowerPoint as
So
well.
I have the Community of Hope. Maybe it's down from it? Maybe, hold on just a second.
In the meantime, we'll talk a little bit about our team. So the Housing and Neighborhood Services section reports directly to the city manager. We are a team made up of about, I think there's 10 of us. We focus on a number of projects. Tonight, I'll just focus mostly on our housing programs, but our primary focus is spending a federal entitlement program through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that's a mix of CDBG and home funds. I'll grab my PowerPoint on my phone so I make sure I stay focused. As part of our programming, we do a whole range of housing programs. Some of it is single-family affordable housing, home ownership opportunities. Some of it is multifamily development through public-private partnerships. We also have a home rehabilitation program, and so we want to make sure homeowners who own their own home are able to age in place and maintain their homes over a period of time. As Nicole mentioned, we fund public services for nonprofits, so we do provide some funding through our CDBG program for Community Hope, Casa de Peregrinos, some of our domestic violence shelters, child programming, so we have a number of pass-through grants that we provide. We also provide things like ADA ramps for mobile homes. We have some utility connection programs, fair housing, landlord-tenant. As part of our development programming, we do things like permit fee waivers and impact fee waivers to help incentivize affordable housing development. And then recently we launched our handyman program specifically to assist some of our seniors who experience heating and cooling events during winter and summer. We had a number of deaths occur from the heat spells that we were getting. You will often hear that there is an affordable housing crisis across the country, but in New Mexico, it is that much worse. So since COVID, we've seen almost home prices go up 70%, rents have risen 60%, and that's compared to the 27% nationally. So there is definitely a problem in New Mexico. Again, statewide homelessness is up 87%, and our construction costs are almost 50%. As mentioned in the previous presentation, we do own about 17 acres of land that is our social service campus. I won't go into much, but if there's interest in that, I'm happy to provide any of those documents. Over the last year, we've done just under 500 units through the low-income housing tax credit. Our voters passed a general obligation bond, and so we were able to leverage that financing through the Mortgage Finance Authority and do 3 tax credit projects with half of the funding. That was $6 million total, so we used $3 million to leverage those 500 units. And then the other $3 million, we are working on our home ownership program. So we're going to work on some first-time home buyer programs. This year, we also broke ground on a permanent supportive housing complex for people experiencing homelessness on the Community of Hope campus. So we did pick up 4 acres adjacent to that social service campus, and creating a pipeline so folks from Camp Hope.
That's not Amador Crossing.
It is Amador Crossing. And so that is primarily grant funded, so we wanted to make sure there was no debt service on that, so we can maintain operations, ensure that we're covering supportive services, all the things that we're going to need for that facility, utilities, security, case management. And so it's primarily financed through capital outlay, mortgage finance authority, and then the city used some of our discretionary healthcare fund to fund that project. And so it's about a 15-month construction timeline. But again, that's 15 units on that service campus with access to all those wraparound services to help transition folks from homelessness. We were also recently awarded a tax credit award through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program with a partnership with our housing authority. And so we're doing some redevelopment of old public housing. That'll be 200 new units. A set aside of those units is for veterans experiencing homelessness, and then there's quite a bit of workforce and senior housing that we're doing with that. And then we just finished some renovations of our Oak Street apartments. That's a partnership with the Mesilla Valley Community Hope and the Housing Authority that specifically houses 22 veterans experiencing homelessness. And we were one of the top 13 cities that receive functional zero in veterans homelessness, and we try and maintain that annually. As part of our single family development program, we partner with a number of agencies. I was asked to provide some information about Habitat for Humanity. They're one of our largest partners. They're a faith-based nonprofit self-help housing program. And so the way we work with them, we've been partnering with them since 1999. We primarily use our federal funds, so there's CDBG and home funds at the state. We have our own pot through the entitlement program, but the state also has their own pot for the rest of the communities. Since its inception of the program, we've constructed, in partnership with them, 128 homes. Families who receive those homes have to put in sweat equity, so they do anywhere from 250 to 500 hours of volunteer service. They have to go through home buyer education. Our Habitat for Humanity retains all their mortgages, so they're 0% mortgages, typically anywhere from 15 to 20 years. And because the sweat equity and volunteers are doing most of the labor, we're able to keep those mortgage costs down. And how the city subsidizes their programming is either through land costs, so we either help purchase the land, or we pay for a portion of the construction costs. And there's a direct reduction of the sales price. So if this house appraises for $200,000 and we purchased a $50,000 lot, at the closing table we see that $50,000 reduction in the sales price. Home ownership is wealth building, so we want to make sure we're investing in all areas of the housing continuum. So we do, again, we fund things like our emergency shelter for domestic violence victims. We are working on transitional housing programs. We have one with another nonprofit that houses 12 families. We do supportive housing, so and we've done it at different scales. So we've done the single house with the 4 units in partnership with Community Hope. We've done, again, a 12-unit complex, and then of course our largest this year is 244 units of affordable housing. Let me see what else I put in this presentation. As part of my presentation, I did put sort of a housing toolbox of different things. Not everything that a city needs to do is financial. And within that housing toolbox, there's some just incentives. So as a city, you can provide things like zoning waivers, density bonus, fee waivers. You can also do some public-private partnerships. So in one instance, our Three Sisters apartments, that was 70 units for families. Their parcel was adjacent to a remnant parcel that we owned, and we used our parcel to help them with their driveway to make that project work. So there's ways to sort of scale your commitment to affordable housing. There's also some development regulations that can be done in Las Cruces. We just passed our Realize Las Cruces initiative, which is a major rewrite of our development code. So we will allow ADUs, casitas or accessory dwelling units by right in all neighborhoods. So that will help increase some of those multi-generational household opportunities. Again, we do provide funding. This year is with the GO bonds, that's the first time we saw the largest investment in affordable housing development. In the past, we've typically only allocated anywhere from $200,000 a year to our partners, Habitat for Humanity and Tierra del Sol. The GO bond was really a game changer for us. And we in turn have leveraged that. This year we'll be getting an additional $12 million from the state legislature to do affordable housing development. There's also a slide I put around how you tailor your strategy as a city. Again, you need to have sort of vision, the resources. I got this slide from a consultant, and it's where vision, resources, and capacity meet political will, creativity, and partnership, and that's where you find your housing strategy. So as a local government, I understand that you guys have your own community needs, and you know your community best. So it's not for me to come in and say, hey, you should do all these programs. Ultimately, our goal is to help you guys build capacity for what you guys want to do. And we have templates on our land bank and trust fund, loan agreements, development agreements, lease agreements. So we're happy to provide all of those resources. And I'm happy to do meetings with city staff if they're interested in more detail on any of these programs. I also had a slide on the housing continuum, and it's just to show how people enter and exit that housing continuum. We like to emphasize that affordable housing is for everyone. So no matter what your income is, your housing should be affordable to you. And oftentimes the people who are eligible for affordable housing are the people that you wouldn't expect, right? It's entry-level police officers, entry-level teachers, our retail workers, and all of that contributes to the ecosystem of your city. And some of the benefits that we've seen in our affordable housing development is, one, the construction costs is investment in our city. It also provides GRT, creates GRT from the construction revenue. And then when our families are not overburdened in their housing costs, they have more disposable income. So they're not having to make some of those tough decisions around, do I pay for my housing costs or pay for my medical supplies? And so there's an overall health to the community when you work on different housing components. And then there's a slide I also like to show that the cost of nothing is not nothing. So if we're not addressing some of these issues through housing, the community still pays, right? You're paying through your public safety response times, whether that's police, whether that's fire, emergency room, bed nights, jail costs. All of those have a cost to our community, and we're paying for it. And oftentimes something like a housing program is much more affordable, or a rental voucher is much more affordable to the community. So there's a fiscal responsibility that we like to maintain across all of our programs. And then hopefully they will send you the program so you can see the actual slides. But thank you for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. I think when you mentioned the land that you actually donate to a person that's building a house, and you said the average cost is $250, so you get to see the $50,000 when the house is.
That was just an example. The housing costs vary. Oftentimes we work with Habitat for Humanity to help them identify already existing parcels in our different neighborhoods across the city. And so they will often negotiate with developers. And so we've seen lots, for $25,000, $27,000. Sometimes they're a little bit higher. But whatever contribution we make, we want to see that direct benefit pass through to the homeowner. So when we're talking about affordable housing, I often say it's a misnomer. It's not that it's cheaper to build for the developer. It's that we've somehow subsidized either the rent or the cost to the end user. So we're subsidizing the end user's cost. And so we want to see that benefit pass directly to the eligible beneficiary. And so that is an allowable use through the state of New Mexico. It's an exemption to the anti-donation. There are some stipulations, like either your city or county has to have an affordable housing plan, and general oversight ordinance. And so you can use some of your comp plan to support your affordable housing goals.
So what is the average cost of building or just a house, period, to house a person there?
For single-family home ownership, it varies. Within my PowerPoint, I actually put an example of 3 homes that we built between 2020 and 2023. The build cost for the different houses, one was $173,000, the other one was $171,000. We provided a number of cost deductions. In that instance, it was $64,000, and so the homeowner's actual mortgage at the end of the day was $108,000. And in that case, we did an impact fee reduction, we did CDBG funding to reduce the land costs, and we did home funding to reduce the construction costs, and they also get some in-kind donations from various suppliers to help cover appliances. And that cost breakdown is in the PowerPoint.
I went through it, but I didn't remember everything. So what was the average mortgage cost, did you say?
For Habitat for Humanity, it's typically about $100,000 is the mortgage that the homeowner is having to pay back. And then to secure our funding and ensure compliance during the affordability period, we file essentially a soft second mortgage. So as long as they remain in their home for the 15 or 20 years, it's forgivable over time. Tierra del Sol has a little bit different model, and their housing costs are a little bit higher because they don't have the volunteer labor that's doing, the electrical work, framing work. So they're actually hiring contractors. So their housing prices are a little bit higher. What are we, 200? Yeah. And sorry, I have our housing manager. She works directly with Habitat and Tierra del Sol, Jan Lauterbach, with me. And so our TDS houses are costing about $200,000. And then again, we typically subsidize the mortgage through covering a portion of the construction costs, and we see that direct reduction at the sales price.
And does the funding from the state go through New Mexico Finance? Does it go through Habitat for Humanity? Is that the nonprofit that you're using for that?
So typically how we fund those two is through our federal entitlement programs. So we use our CDBG and our home funds. So we get a direct allocation from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The balance of state, or so other communities that aren't entitlement, would go directly to the state and ask for those funds. And those fundings are available for both those programs. There's also quite a few things out of the Mortgage Finance Authority. So they just launched their ZIP program, which is a zero interest, and that's open to actually even private developers. One of the things I like to emphasize is this housing crisis isn't going to be solved by government alone. So we do need to work with our private partners. Sometimes they have greater capacity, and they can do it faster and cheaper than a local government can. So finding those ways to work with them can help sort of jumpstart some of that programming. And a lot of times how we do that is through, we just launched, again, similar to MFA, a zero interest revolving loan fund. So we lend them the money to build the house, and then at the closing table, we get all of our funding back, 100%. And that helps them build the houses a little bit faster, and they're not tacking on that construction loan interest, which is typically...
So that's just for the construction?
Mm-hmm. That's just for the construction. The client still has to meet the income eligibility, but right now I think construction loans, and don't hold me to it, last time I looked, they were sitting at somewhere 9%, 10% interest that loan is incurring during the build. And so if we're able to eliminate that, that translates.
And this, I'm sorry, did you have more questions?
Yeah, I do, but you go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just wondering, are these, I guess I missed that. Are these done by private contractors or?
Some of them are. So in the instance of Tierra del Sol, they typically work with a private contractor to construct the houses. They help income qualify the clients, provide the homeowner counseling, and then the private developer builds the house, and then at the closing table, there's some reductions.
And I'm assuming the private developer gets paid to build the house, right?
Yes, they get their, typically a developer fee. I've seen them, I think the last one was about $6,000 to $8,000 per house, so it's a nominal fee. Again, Habitat's a little bit different because they're holding their own mortgages, and most of the work is volunteer, so they're able to do a much lower mortgage. But in our instance, because they're primarily snowbirds, their volunteer pool is very small. And so they're only building during October to April season, and so they have a lower capacity to do single family. And so we are working to sort of up their capacity and then also finding some alternative programming. It wasn't in this presentation, but some of the funds we're getting from the legislature is to purchase a single family subdivision. So we'll be buying 52 lots. And over the next year, we're going to build out those 52 houses for first-time home buyers. And our hope is to match it with some of the down payment assistance programming that came out. So there was some down payments that's targeting some of the essential jobs that we need in our state. So social workers, medical providers, and some of the other, to retain that industry in our communities to provide those services to our citizens.
That's what the housing is going to be for?
Some of the lots will be for that. They're still low to moderate income individuals, but they're in specialties that we need in our community. And so they'll have to work in our community and for a period of time to realize the benefit, to get that down payment assistance forgiven.
And I wanted to just find out, what is the success rate on financing and finding, the people to work for Habitat for Humanity? And then my second part would be on the multi-generational unit. Has that been built, or is it coming?
That one is coming. We do have, some of the older neighborhoods already have casitas. I myself have a casita. My father-in-law lives with us. He has his own ADU that he lives in. So there are, you used to be able to do it through a special use permit. The new zoning code allows folks to just do it by rights, with exceptions, right? You have to have the right setbacks. You still have to pull a permit. You have to have the space, right, to be able to build an ADU. So there are some guardrails for those. And so our hope is to see more of those, because either our residents can use it as income producing and help maintain their own housing costs, or we see additional housing units come on board. And our hope is that, again, you get those multi-generational households, or you get additional housing units for other members of the community.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question for you, and then I have a question for you. Can you explain entitlement funds, what they are? The word is kind of throwing me off a little bit.
We have Mr. Mayor. Mayor, commissioners. So entitlement funds are formula funding that local communities automatically get from the federal government based on certain criteria. For U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, our population size has to meet a certain threshold, and then they allocate that funding every single year to us, as long as we're in compliance and do all the paperwork.
So your population size, so you have to be larger, smaller?
So in New Mexico, there's 5 CDBG entitlements, and so those 5, I think they have to have 50,000 or more. So it's Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Las Cruces, Rio Rancho, and Farmington.
So Alamogordo couldn't do something like that?
And then the state gets the rest of the money.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the other communities, the state is holding the CDBG funds.
Okay.
And so
I gotcha.
as a community, you should be demanding that they spend some of that funds in southern New Mexico. And then home funds, again, there's only 3 participating jurisdictions. It's that one, you have to have a much larger population, and it's Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and then the state of New Mexico. And so again, the state holds those home funds in a lump sum, and then they distribute those funds across.
And how much is that portion that you just mentioned between the home funds and the entitlement funds? How much are we talking about?
So for the city of Las Cruces, between both funding sources, it's 1.5 for us. Albuquerque.
1.5?
1.5 million for the city of Las Cruces. The state gets, I don't know, probably about 20 million.
No,
I'd
but I
have to
mean
look.
just for the city of Las Cruces.
Just for the city
So
of-
that, those entitlement funds that you're talking about is about $1.5 million.
Between both. It's about $1 million in CDBG and 500,000 in home funds.
Okay, all right. Okay, I have a question for you. I remembered what I was going to ask you now, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. It's been a long day. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so the Community of Hope, I'm assuming you have neighbors, residential neighbors. How do they handle, because I mean, you're making it sound great, but I think just, as somebody who has had, obviously I work with the homeless too, and it's not all roses, obviously. So how do your neighbors handle, just, do you have any problems, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Mayor Nicole Martinez, for the record. Great question. It's not always, kumbaya, I would say. We've been there a long time. We've been there since the 90s. So a lot of the businesses that are there now came after the Community of Hope was established. But I think we've really worked hard to try to maintain the relationships that we have with the businesses around us. Mm-hmm. So while many of them are impacted, we're trying to mitigate that. That's why I feel like the Mano a Mano Day Labor Program has been so important for our community. Mm-hmm. So if there is a business that's being impacted by, an unsanctioned encampment, then our outreach team is on it. The Mano a Mano program is out there trying to clean it up. We're trying to bring people closer to us, mm-hmm. so they're not impacting the community surrounding the Community of Hope. But I think that it's really important that we're part of our community. We've had people say, well, we should move them 4 miles out of town. But we need to be near services for people. We need to be able to be near bus lines and grocery stores, healthcare services. So it'd be a huge disservice if we're doing something where there weren't any neighbors. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really difficult where, you've probably heard the acronym, Not in My Backyard, NIMBY, is alive and well in lots of communities. And so it can be really hard to establish from the get-go. Again, ours it's about a mile from the downtown area in an industrial part of town, but it was there since the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, so having said that, I'm assuming you've had occasions where you've had to call law enforcement. Do you know how often that happens or how often they have to intervene?
Mayor, interesting you should ask. If we're talking about Camp Hope, Natalie Green actually had just reached out to our chief of police just to see what that kind of looked like or get a statement from him. We hardly ever have law enforcement respond to Camp Hope. If we do, it's a last resort, and it's typically because we've tried to work with someone. We use our security. A lot of the social workers are trained in de-escalation, so it's a last resort. Now on the campus as a whole, issues might arise. Mm-hmm. Somebody might have got their phone stolen or something like that. So they're calling law enforcement. So we do have a lot of those calls that will come through, or people that have major behavioral health issues on that campus. I mean, this is where we want them to have them because we have all the safety nets around. But I don't have a number in general of what the entire Community of Hope campus calls would look like. But I can tell you for Camp Hope that they're pretty minimal.
Yeah, and I would think so. Because I think some people are actually more comfortable in that setting or that situation. I think that's what they're used to, and so I would think you'd have less. But and I'm getting these questions. Sorry, but what? So you said there's some having to call law enforcement, mental health issues. Or is that a big part of it, or are there other issues like? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how you ensure that, like, nobody's bringing in weapons or nobody's bringing in drugs or things like that. Like, what is your policy, or how do you handle that, or is that an issue for you?
Sure, Mayor. We're situated on city property, so we're not allowed to have weapons. We use signage. We have a security guard. We have lots of staff with eyes on. All of the agencies have their own criteria for screening as people are coming in. For Camp Hope, we're very low barrier, so we're not inspecting people's things unless we have a reason to. So there has to be some pretty good reasonable suspicion to go and check on those things. We realize that people that we work with, some of them do have mental health issues. Whether or not they're coming to Community of Hope, we have people like that in our community that have housing and have safety nets. So also people with addiction issues. And so we want to treat that like the disease that it is and work with people there. We have recovery teams there on the Community of Hope campus. So that is a part of it. And we've been really strategic in which partners we've brought in to help address those issues.
But you have a shelter as well as, or did I miss that?
Community of Hope, the only sheltering that we do is through Camp Hope, but across
through
the
Camp
street from us is the Gospel Rescue Mission.
Okay.
So there is
Do
an
you know
indoor.
how many shelters are in Las Cruces?
So there's Camp Hope, there's the Las Cruces Gospel Rescue Mission, and then there is La Casa, which is the domestic violence shelter.
Oh, okay, so only 2 homeless shelters. Please don't yell at me for saying it like that, but only 2 homeless shelters.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I thought there was more.
I mean, there's, the 3, but one is specifically for domestic
For
violence.
domestic violence, which
victims.
we have here, yeah. Okay, all right. And then I guess, okay, I'm not even going to ask the last 2. It's okay, it's not that big of a deal. I'll get with you later. Anyway, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you driving all the way up here, and as I said, I've heard that presentation before. It's been a hot minute, so it's always good to have a refresher, but it sounds like we may have some barriers here that you don't have there, and so I guess it's just something that can be considered, but all right, well, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on now to public comment. Thank you for waiting and listening. Our first one is Dave Dooling, and he's here on behalf of Main Street. Oh, yeah, no, give those, yeah, if you can give those to our, yeah, thank you. And then they'll pass them out to us, sorry, okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the Commission, good evening. Dave Dooling, many of you may know me as Education Director at the Space Museum, retired from there a couple of years ago, but informal science education is just too much of a fun job to go completely. I am now working with New Mexico, or rather Alamogordo Main Street, to develop a program, a proposal, science discovery on Main Street. We recently got a $12,500 grant from the Simons Foundation International, one of 12 Main Streets, small community Main Streets in the nation to get these. It runs through August, and we are to develop a proposal, a plan to hold a science festival in the Main Street district. What shape, et cetera, it's going to take, that's all TBD. What we're going to do is poll the members of the community, school teachers, cultural groups, businesses, et cetera, to find out what they would like to have done. As it says on the flyer that I have, what would you like to do? Because we want this to be something that showcases Alamogordo science students, have them design, build, and execute some sort of a project that would then be demonstrated on Main Street at the festival. If we win, this would be in September, it would be a one-year grant running September this year through 2026. But what we're looking at is having the festival in April next year. We want to beat the heat and have it pull the whole thing off while school is in session, because once Memorial Day hits, everybody's gone. Again, the exact shape, excuse me, is going to be TBD. There will be exhibitors, and we will solicit companies to provide STEM, science, technology, engineering, math exhibits as a part of it, because STEM is everywhere in just about everything that you do. And we will be coming and talking with members of the city staff, county staff, et cetera, in the next 2-3 months to help refine and build this out. That's
Thank
basically
you,
it.
and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I told him to wait until we got it.
I know, thanks. I watched afterwards. I didn't. Okay, next we have Mr. Scott Frederick. I'm sorry, he's going to be speaking about the honor flight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, appreciate the time. Glad you guys still do public comment, although it's shorter now, so I'll talk faster. Honor Flight, we've been supporting locally for 5 years here. If you haven't been to one of those, I know many of you have. I appreciate your presence, and the community sees that as well. But Honor Flight locally, we support local veterans that our organization, the U.S. Veterans Motorcycle Club, is financially supported in the past, and we kind of coordinate the local welcome home. Nationwide, it is an organization that takes World War II veterans, Korean veterans, not many left, and specifically Vietnam veterans who did not get the welcome home they deserved when they came back from war. So locally, the next event is 26 April. Here we have 2 veterans, Gloria Fernandez, 50 years retired now after a medical officer career, retired as lieutenant colonel, lives in town here, and Thomas McKean, who lives in Tularosa, a retired crew chief, has a special place in my heart for keeping airplanes up in the air. So we are going to meet them at El Paso like we've done in the past. When they come back, El Paso, Biggs, the city of El Paso, does a phenomenal welcome home. Hundreds of people, usually a band, they line the main entrance and they get a welcome home that is impressive and brings tears to your eyes. Typically, they go back on a bus to Las Cruces, which is what we saw as a foul for our local veterans, because Las Cruces isn't their home. And that's where our organization stood up and said, we would like to pull them back here. So we go meet them with motorcycles. The 49th Wing is supported in the past and is supporting again this time, a van. So they will be picked up at El Paso, put in the van, escorted back. Last time and every time, the support from our local law enforcement and first responders has been phenomenal. Sheriff's Department met us at the border last time and gave us Class A escort all the way home. Border Patrol lets us through. They know that we're coming. APD catches us at the city line typically. Hopefully we can redo that in the future. And then the fire department has, when it's not too windy, put the big tower up with the flag over New York Avenue. We hope to get the Patrons Hall reserved again this year. If not, it'll be somewhere else on New York. But on the 26th of April, they get in about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Takes them a while to get all those push charts and wheelchairs through the airport and on a bus, and then we should be back here probably about 7 o'clock is my best guess, and we'll update the city with that later. But then we welcome them home. We have lined the streets, White Sands, people out there, kids waving flags, and then people on New York to welcome them home. So just a public announcement of that's happening, and hopefully we can get support from our local first responders to help us welcome them home back to Tularosa. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to get out of your way.
Oh, not in our way.
you guys don't have questions for me. Thank you.
No, we're good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, and last we have Heather, is it floating or floating?
Floating, but I'm going to pass this time out.
Oh, okay. You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. So now we're going to move on to the city manager's report.
I'll keep it short. I just have a couple of things. Just wanted to let everyone know that I will be interviewing for the city attorney's position next week, because we know Ashley's bailing on us and she'll be going to Wyoming. And so those interviews will take place next week. We're hoping to have somebody in before she leaves. Just a reminder, we are having the Fun Center on April 8th presentation here in the commission. And what we're going to do is we're going to really blast that out on social media and on our Jumbotron and anywhere we can, just so that the public's aware that there will be a presentation about the Fun Center. And then I just wanted to remind you, I am out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I am going, my daughter's having a procedure, and I'll be in Arizona. So that's it.
I've heard it's hot there already. Yeah.
90 degrees already.
Yeah. I told my daughter, don't worry about it, it's only March. You got time. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to remarks and inquiries by the city commission.
A quick one. Oh, go ahead.
You go first.
You go first.
Okay, I'll go. Stephanie, just a quick one. Since I wasn't here last week, I was in Phoenix on business. Did they ever get the DFA signature on that irrigation project?
The signature on the, yes.
The last one?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So it's,
Yeah, so all 5 are good to go, yeah.
so it's good to go.
And I think you missed the pre-con meeting.
I
Yeah.
did, unfortunately.
Yep. All's going well. We have a meeting next week, I believe, to develop our communication plan so that everybody knows exactly where we're at when we're at, because it's going to be a pretty big project, so.
That's it, that's one question.
I had a question. Do we have an update on this bridge right over here as far as where we're at on that? And then 10th Street is a very major inconvenience right now. Do we kind of know when we're going to open up back down there at the other end? At least that way we only have the one detour.
So, you don't like going, we're detouring people around to see our beautiful city.
Right. It takes me an extra 15 minutes to make it to Chaparral from White Sands Boulevard.
Glass half full, Commissioner Reardon.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and let Evelyn talk about the bridge, because that one's been a big old conversation. So as I had mentioned before, we're going to try and pull that into our floodwater mitigation and have a ditch, but because initially it was funded by grant funding, so there are some complications.
So Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, where we are right now is the engineer of record, so Smith Engineering is working on the drainage model so that we properly size the bridge, because when we looked at actually replacing the bridge instead of just doing the wing walls, it was very clear that it was way too small for what the drainage plan for Washington Canal should be. So we went ahead and tasked the engineer with looking at the drainage model that had been developed in 2019, updating that so that's correct. Once they have that, they're going to be able to tell us, do we need a 10-year, do we need a 25-year, where's that fit? The other part, as Stephanie mentioned, is the DOT grant. The DOT grant was written just for wing walls and the sidewalks. So we are in the process of talking with the DOT to see if the change in scope is going to be basically approved by them, or if we're going to need to fund it all ourselves. So that's where we're currently at with both the funding side and the design side.
Then are we going to put out an RFP on this and go for a
Yes.
whole new bid, or are we going to
Yes.
do CES and?
No, we're going to go. Once the design is completed, we'll go out for a competitive procurement.
So we're looking at probably a year by the time we're done.
I would not say a year. We're looking, the good thing about the design is that once we determine the size of the bridge that we need, it's all DOT standard. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not having to do some, crazy fancy thing. We get the size, we've got the DOT standard, that'll progress. And then we are talking with our engineer about including an accelerated construction timeline in the competitive bid.
What about the other detour? We're still looking at about another week or two?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks is what I last heard.
Okay,
I
so it's been
believe-
closed a week already, so it'll be another additional 2 weeks?
I don't think it's another additional 2 weeks. I think it's just another additional 1 week.
Well, it was originally 2 weeks, but was that before the change order?
No, the PSA that went out
I didn't read it.
last week said 1 more week. So I'm going to go with the PSA.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, we just, real quick, I believe Commissioner McDonald and Commissioner Guthrie were there. We did the groundbreaking for the F4 project. It was freezing. It was so cold out there. But it was also pretty cool to see there were so many people out there. I thought maybe 10 people would show up. I think there was
Over 100.
over 100, maybe close to 150 people that showed up and supported that. It was really exciting, and we're excited to get that started. So it looks like they're going to be breaking ground, and what are they saying, August? I think they're saying August. Somewhere around August it should be finished. So if you're not familiar with it, you can get on the Chamber of Commerce website. They have a webpage dedicated to it. Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting. So that was last Tuesday. That was kind of the big thing.
It was actually Wednesday.
Oh, was it Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh, it was last Wednesday. It was cold. All I know is it was cold. If I haven't mentioned that, yeah, it was cold. And I will tell you, I got some really great feedback. We have a contractor that is working on one of the bridges. Is it right? Yeah, he's from Tucson. That's the one.
KENG, yes.
Yeah, and had some really great things to say about our city, and is looking forward to, in his words, putting down roots here. So that's pretty exciting for us too, and it's always nice to hear some positive comments. So anyway, that's all I have. If anybody else has anything? Okay. Oh, actually, I do have one more thing. Next meeting is April 8th. It is also Month of the Military Child. Pull out those purple shirts and let's support our military. I'll be doing a proclamation for that, and that's at the next meeting. So, yeah, purple. Everybody wear purple. I'm not allowed to send out a reminder because we can't talk to each other, but if you can remember to do that, that would be very cool, and show our support for our military kids. And that's all I have. All right, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to pull off the consent agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Reardon. Can we put up the vote, please? Wait a minute, I think I'm in the wrong spot. Okay. And motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to new business. Item 7, consider and act upon Ordinance 1713 for first publication of a map amendment to rezone 1537 South Florida Avenue. And Stella Riel has some info on that one.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. Yes, this evening I bring in front of you case Z 2025-002A. It is a rezoning, as you mentioned, of the 1537 South Florida Avenue. The property owners request a map amendment to change the zoning of the property known as 1537 South Florida Avenue from R1 Single Family Dwelling District to C3 Business District. You all are probably familiar with this property. It is actually the old home of the Alamo Bus Company on South Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here is a zoning map showing the property there. I've got an arrow pointing towards it. That is R1 Single Family Dwelling. I also want to bring to your attention, to the left is a darker brown, that's C3 with the condition, that's our National Guard Armory. And then to the east of the property, we have Townhouse Dwelling District there in the yellow. Letters were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. This is a picture of the protest area. Here is just another site map of the area without the zoning layer on it. So once again, the property is located at 1537 South Florida. The request is to change the zoning from R1 Single Family Dwelling District to C3 Business District. The legal notice was published in the Alamogordo Daily News. 12 letters were mailed by certified return receipt, mailed to all property owners within that 200-foot excluding public right-of-way of the property which the rezoning is sought. As of March 18, 2 letters have been returned undeliverable. I have not received any letters or phone calls of opposition. Staff is recommending approval since this request will not be materially detrimental to surrounding property owners or the public, and it will actually correct the zoning required for a commercial business.
That's
This-
what it was, yeah.
Yeah, this zoning should have been, it should have been fixed when permits were issued for Alamo Bus Company to place their business there. It should not have been in a single-family dwelling district. So I am open for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. Do I have a motion to,
I make a motion to approve ordinance 1713, case Z 2025.
okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Tapley. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Reardon. Can we put up the vote, please? And motion passes 6-0. Move on to item 8, consider and act upon ordinance 1714 for first publication of a map amendment to rezone 2595 Holly Avenue.
Yes, ma'am. Once again, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners, this is case Z 2024-0007A. And as you mentioned, the property owners are requesting a map amendment to change the zoning of the property known as 2595 Holly Avenue from MH1 Manufactured Housing Subdivision District to R4 Multiple Dwelling District. Excuse me. The red arrow there is showing the property in question. That light gray color is Manufactured Housing Subdivision. I just want to show the different zoning districts that are within this area. So it's a great mixed use. There, the pink is industrial, light industrial. The purple on the east side is industrial. And then up on the top, we've got another manufactured housing subdivision. And then, if you remember, about a year ago, we did 2405 Holly and changed it to the same zoning designation of R4. And since then, that developer has placed two separate duplexes there. Okay, so that's just to show you all the mixed uses there. And of course, the light blue is single-family dwelling district. Here's just the site map of the area. Here's the protest map. So the property is located once again at 2595 Holly Avenue. The request is to change the zoning from MH1 Manufactured Housing Subdivision District to R4 Multiple Family Dwelling District. And the reason for this is the same owner that purchased 2405 and built those duplexes, and he intends to do the same thing on this parcel.
The duplexes.
Yes, ma'am. So the legal notice was published in the Alamogordo Daily News. 5 letters were mailed by certified return receipt to all property owners within that 200-foot radius. And as of March 18, no letters have been returned undeliverable, and no letters or phone calls of opposition have been received. Staff is recommending approval since this request is not materially detrimental to surrounding property owners or the public. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on, are these actually new units, or is it old units that are being moved on new property?
No, ma'am, they're new.
new.
They're new. They're stick-built.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, can we put up the vote, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to approve item 8?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mayor, I need to abstain from voting on this.
Oh, okay. Thank you for doing that, if that's what you needed to do. Thank you for remembering, I should say. Okay, so I have a a motion from Commissioner Robinson, a second from Commissioner Roden. Can we put up the vote, please? Okay, and motion passes 5 with 1 abstention. That is so hard to say. But anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. 501, how's that? Okay, and we're going to move on to item 9, the overview of the hiring process for a city manager with discussion and direction to staff. That would be our HR director, Michelle Osborne, has some information for us. And before you get started, just so everybody out here knows, we started the hiring process and then decided to wait until after the first year so that we could seat the commissioner for District 1. We now have Commissioner Guthrie, and so we are resuming that hiring process.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. I'm happy to speak to you tonight on behalf of HR and our processes. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to just tell you right from the get-go, the thing that really excites me about it is although we are recruiting for a city manager, this recruitment is not generally handled any differently than if we were hiring a street maintenance laborer. The process is the process is the process that's in policy. So we follow the policy. The process actually goes that first, of course, we have to have a vacancy. We had a vacancy. The position was, we received authorization to post and recruit for a city manager. The position was posted. The job description was reviewed prior to posting. The recruitment was opened as a continuous recruitment, open until filled. And then as the mayor already indicated, while we did receive a good number of applications, we did for very valid reasons, have some delays in moving forward, whether it was getting us through the holidays, knowing that not much was going to happen at that time, and then filling the vacant commissioner seat of Commissioner Paul. Those were very important steps. At this time, where we're at is we have a number of applications. They have been reviewed by HR and scored. And what I mean by that is an HR function is to take every application and review it based on what the qualifications of the job are. And then it really comes down to math. If the requirement is a bachelor's degree in public administration, we're going to look at each application and say, does this candidate have that? If they don't have it, it's a 0 on our spreadsheet. If they do have it, it's a 1. If they exceed the requirement, it's a 2. So while the candidates can be very, very different, the scoring and the process has continuity. So in the end result, after every candidate is assessed on the requirements of the job, then each candidate has some sort of score, some sort of number, and that's when we can really compare apples to apples, because it's math. And 3 is higher than 2, and 4 is higher than 3, and so on. So where we are right now is those applications have been reviewed, they have been scored. Some of them have been already made available to you all previously because we thought we might get to do something before the holiday. There are additional applications that are ready for your review, and that's really where we are. The next step, whether it's a city manager recruitment or a regular recruitment, once the screening is done by HR, then we have those recommendations of who would meet the qualifications of the position. But the supervisor, the manager, the department director is always offered an opportunity to come and look at every application we've received. They may, most likely, often, thankfully, agree with our assessment and our scoring. Sometimes we could have missed something that they caught and we didn't on an application. So it's important for our managers and directors to have an opportunity to review all the applications, and that's the opportunity that you'll have collectively to review all of the applications now that they've been screened.
Okay. So now I guess we need to talk about how we want to proceed.
I'd like to review what we have.
Okay. I have a few concerns that I need to bring up that okay. I have a few concerns that I need to bring up. One of the concerns is that we have an outside entity that I understand has spoken with a couple of our commissioners and offered to pay for a search firm. And there's an issue with that. And part of the issue is that same entity did go speak with our acting city manager, and as we all know, she is an applicant and has tried really hard to stay out of it. So at this point, and one of our commissioners has given the impression that she is not a consideration. It was brought to my attention, I'm super uncomfortable with this, but it was brought to my attention that that was the impression that she got, and that the entity also came to her and spoke with her, even though she explained to them that she has to stay out of it, and basically gave her the impression that that they didn't think that she was a viable candidate. We don't know that yet because we don't know that yet. We have to look at all the applications. And so I have been put in a really awkward position. I did call our outside counsel, as I normally do, to get guidance because I have no idea how to proceed with this. I was advised, and I agreed that in the interest of transparency, that I needed to bring this up tonight. At this point, I'm really concerned that this process has been completely tainted. And this is just my opinion, but I do have outside counsel that agrees with me. So I think one of the things that we might need to consider is going out for RFP and just hiring a search firm to start this process, because I'm concerned about litigation at this point. And I'm not comfortable with this. If you decide not to proceed with a search firm, I'm on the record right now as telling you that I believe that this process has been tainted. And I believe that we are setting ourselves up for potential litigation if we don't do something different. And I'm not comfortable with just proceeding. That's just me.
Mayor, the direction from the commission back in December was we're going to hold off till we have the other seat filled.
Right.
The position was remain advertised in the newspaper. It wasn't in this last one, but the direction from the commission was to leave it open. And then once the other commissioner was seated, that we would review what came in.
Right.
And then we would take a step one way or the other.
Right.
I don't know where you're coming from on that, but
Because
for us to just go in and review these and see if there's viable candidates, we've got 28 candidates.
I
think it is
understand
28
that.
or 29.
Right. I don't have a problem with that. My issue is that one of our commissioners approached an applicant and basically gave her the impression that she was not a viable candidate.
One of the commissioners approached
One of the
the candidate?
commissioners, yes, one of the commissioners. And in addition to that, and it's the Sacramento Mountains Foundation who offered to pay for.
Well, we all know that, yes.
Well, actually, no, I didn't know that, because I'm actually a little miffed that they would approach two commissioners, and I knew nothing about it until I just found out.
I told you.
Well, you didn't tell me who it was. I actually thought it was somebody else, and I think I even
Sacramento
told you.
Foundation.
Okay, all right. But the problem is the chair of that foundation made a visit yesterday, even though there was an email put out that said, from our acting city manager, that said, I cannot discuss this with you because I'm an applicant. He chose to come over anyway and speak with her and basically almost told her verbatim or used the same language that one of our commissioners used. I'm concerned, and I was concerned enough about it. Listen, I am, regardless of what people think, I'm all about transparency. And this process needs to be fair. And at this point, I'm very concerned that this process has been tainted, and I want it to be fair. And in the interest of fairness, I think one of the things that we need to consider is going out for RFP and allowing a search firm that, not a search firm, the Sacramento Mountains Foundation has gone as far as getting prices, getting bids. Okay, we're the city. That's our job. All right? And that's fine if they want to do that. But how do we demonstrate to the public that we're being fair and transparent when we have an outside entity who says they don't want to be involved? And I believe them, I take them at their word. But how do we demonstrate to the public that we are being transparent and we're being fair in the process when we have this outside entity that basically is getting bids on search firms? I mean, we can't do that. And I am, if nobody else sees the problem with that, then okay, but boy, it was a red flag for me. I was uncomfortable the first time you mentioned it. I'm really uncomfortable now. I think that we need to, at this point, let a search firm handle it, but I think that we need to go out for RFP and have a fair bid process across the board.
for the
Follow
record.
state procurement laws. I'm not comfortable with this.
For the
And-
record, the foundation offered, and this is for all the Alamogordo residents, the foundation offered to pay for the headhunter firm. They didn't offer to pick it.
I
That's up to
understand
us.
that.
They offered to pay
Right.
for the headhunter firm, and they also offered to pay a supplement of X amount of dollars up to a certain amount to get us to where we could get a very, very qualified city manager, to get the
But see,
salary.
when you make a statement like that, you're already suggesting that one of our applicants is not.
I'm not, I'm just saying.
But that's the and this is my concern. It's the impression that you're leaving that one of our applicants is not qualified, and that concerns me.
I don't know
think
because we haven't seen them. We've only seen
no.
half
What
of
you
them.
said was they offered to get us a supplement to get us a really, really qualified applicant. How do
A
we know we
seasoned-
don't already have a really, really
We may.
qualified applicant?
We may, but until we review the additional ones that are here tonight, which we're going to go do, we can review what's here, and then if we decide at that point that we don't see anything we like, then we go and hire a firm.
I understand that. But what I'm telling you is one of our commissioners has already made a comment to one of our applicants suggesting that they are not even going to be considered.
I don't know which commissioner that is, so.
I mean, I could say it, but I'm not going to. Well, no, I mean, I will. If you all want to know, I'll tell you. I'm just telling you that the applicant was uncomfortable enough that it was brought to my attention. I'm uncomfortable enough that I can't even believe it. And the bigger issue is the commissioner said it to her, and then the chair of the Sacramento Mountains Foundation came and basically said almost the exact same thing, word for word. The statement was made, well, you'll be okay in the background, or you'll be okay, right? You'll be good even if you don't get it. You'll be good. You'll be fine because you like working in the background. That was the statement made. So I'm asking, how do we prove, in the interest of transparency, that we're not compromised in some way? How do we do that? And I think at this point, we've got an issue. And quite honestly, I got to tell you, being the mayor and having to deal with this sucks. And I'm just going to say it, and yes, you can put that on the record. It sucks, and I don't like it, because I am super uncomfortable and I'm super frustrated. The one thing I always say is, this is why we can't have nice things. Well, this is why we can't have nice things, because I can't. And I don't know how to handle it. That's the problem. The problem is I don't know how to make this right. I don't know how to handle this. So I called outside counsel, and outside counsel said to me, you need to say it in a public meeting and on the record. So that's what I'm doing.
Part of the
Ask me if
problem-
I'm comfortable with this.
Part of the problem is you're consulting with outside counsel that's not here and doesn't hear the whole story. Our attorney that's sitting over there is the one we should be asking, not outside counsel, period. And I've
Okay.
made that statement
The
before.
outside counsel-
So my question for our attorney is, would it be safe for us to go to executive session tonight, review the applicants that we have? And by the way, the listing was closed per somebody. They took it out of the newspaper and closed it, and the direction from the commission at the time was to leave it open until filled.
The
So,
listing was closed.
my question's out. You know, it wasn't closed. We were told to leave it open until filled.
Yeah,
That
I
is
was
what-
getting to that.
Well, we're not filled yet, are we?
We're not filled, but
It's not in the paper. It's not being
I
advertised.
took that direction
I've got a
from-
question from
Okay.
our
All right,
attorney.
go ahead.
Do you feel comfortable for us to go to exec session tonight and review the applicants that we have?
Commissioner Reardon, the problem is so we would have the potential already for a potential lawsuit, because of things that has been said to an applicant. They would have the right, they could sue, if,
In the event that we were to go forward with hiring one of these?
and truth be told, they could sue in any event, whether it's reviewed or not. They would have some legal standing if they were to choose to do that. I think the big thing is the perception and the fact that, it does appear that this poll has possibly been tainted, and maybe the view of all fairness and being opened, people could perceive it as, there's already pre-selection, right? And which is something that we can't do. We can't pre-select.
Can I just interject? Because this is obviously about me, and this puts staff in a really awkward position. And I think one of the reasons that it's so hard is because, people are reaching out to me, people are reaching out to Rachel, people are reaching out to Michelle, people are reaching out to the city attorney, all of which I'm over them,
Yes.
all of which I know Ashley's feeling uncomfortable. I think I'm not uncomfortable, but I feel maybe Michelle's uncomfortable, and I suggested that we should go out for a headhunting firm for that reason, because staff is so involved in this, and we shouldn't be. And I don't know where the process went, whichever way it went, but it's just very uncomfortable for staff. And I
It's
feel
put
bad
us
for
in-
Ashley right now because she's trying to
It's put us in a very difficult position that the fact that our acting manager is an applicant. So you're technically our employee right now. So you are our go-to person. You are the one we're supposed to ask. But, my questions that I've asked, I've tried to go through the clerk or Ashley to leave you out of the middle of it because you are involved in it and in the running. So, what are we supposed to do?
No, and that's why I said I feel like a headhunting firm would be the best, or a recruiter, I apologize. Because I feel that staff feels like they're betraying me, which I try and tell them, you listen to whatever they tell you, but it's an awkwardness. And I will say I was uncomfortable with John Wheeler coming to me and talking, because I was under the impression he was coming to talk to me about the city attorney position. And I did, and I can read you the email, I did tell him, as far as the city manager position, I can't talk about that. Please send whatever documentation you have to the city commission, whether it be through email or they're discussing it on Tuesday, you can come speak to them directly about that. And I told them I have to avoid any perception of conflict of interest or any me trying to influence the process. So that did come from me. I was very uncomfortable with that conversation, and despite the fact that I told them I didn't want to have that meeting on that particular, I was game about the golf course, but I wasn't exactly game about the city manager. that did put me in an awkward position too. So I still want what's in the best interest of the city. I still want to keep going with what we're going, and I honestly feel that it's really getting more complicated than it needed to get, and that to be fair to all the candidates, because there could be a better candidate than me, that they deserve a fair shot too, and that a headhunting firm would probably be best. And that's just my opinion, just because I feel bad for Ashley struggling and everybody struggling to do
And
this.
just so we're clear, I can't, sir, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't. Just to be clear, I'm consulting outside. Number one, Gino Zamora is contracted through the New Mexico Municipal League. He
To
is,
advise our attorneys.
what's that?
They're to advise our attorneys, not us directly.
Well, I don't think
We have
so,
a contract
because
with him for all city matters.
all city manners. He is not only is he an attorney that has decades of municipal experience, but he also happens to be a city council person councilman, we're commissioners, I get a little confused, a city councilman in Santa Fe. So he serves on a council, and he's also got decades of municipal experience. And for that reason, I have been calling him, because I'm trying to keep staff out of it, because I don't know what to do. And I get these situations that I'm faced with, and I don't know what to do. And I want to make sure that we are following the legal process. We have to follow.
Do we have a contract with Randy Van Vleck? No?
No, sir.
He's not a contract attorney with us?
If you would like us to have one, we can reach out, but as
Didn't he
of
just-
right now, we do not have a
Didn't
contract
he just
with him.
redo our zoning ordinance for us?
That contract, I believe, is closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I trust Randy Van Vleck. He worked for the league for 30
And
30
we can
years.
reach out to him
So,
and get that.
Okay,
if
and
you'd like.
If we need somebody like that, but I still
I
feel.
trust Gino Zamora. So he's done work with the Alamogordo Public Schools. He's done work with us. He's done work with other municipalities. So
Well, guys, the direction that was there from the commission was to, hold off till we seated our commission. And this was all of us back there. And wait till we seated the commissioner. And then we were going to start moving forward. And we have 10 additional applicants. I don't see what was going to harm anything for us to look at it, because we've already looked at the 18 or 19 that we have. And none of us felt that we saw anything that really popped out at the time.
I understand that.
So we reviewed those. We've got 10, so those have already been reviewed. Those have already sat off to the side, and we've held these people up that have applied for 3 to 4 months. We're talking back like November, early December. So
I
we need
understand
to
that,
quit
but there
kicking
may
the
be.
can down the road.
But I'm not kicking the can down the road.
Yes, we
What
are.
No, I'm not. What I'm telling you is, a sitting city commissioner approached an applicant and gave them the impression that they were not even going to be considered, and then the Sacramento Mountains Foundation basically told her the same thing. If I were an applicant, I would not be feeling real great right now.
I'm not sure which commissioner you're talking about.
Well, it does, the commissioner knows who they are. And the problem is that we can't prove that this whole process wasn't tainted. And that is a concern for me. And if it's not a concern for the rest of you, I'm telling you on the record right now, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know. It can't be the first time in the city of Alamogordo that we've had an acting city manager that has also been an applicant for the city manager.
No, that pretty much is.
Well, if it is, then we need a lesson learned here. But I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm sorry that you don't trust our attorney, but it's all I've got. It's all I've got. And when I'm being approached about this and I'm being told, hey, this happened, I'm not comfortable that the Sacramento Mountains Foundation was picking and choosing which commissioners to talk to about this.
They may be, but that's their right. They're allowed to talk to us.
It may be their right, but I think it's pretty disrespectful.
My thing with an outside counsel is they're getting your side of the story. They may not be getting all of the details.
He's probably watching right now,
He may
actually.
be. He may be. Probably at your request.
No,
But
actually.
that, the outside counsel may not have all the details. I was unaware that John came in and had a meeting with any of the staff on this.
But what is the details? The details are very simple. A commissioner approached an applicant. I mean, it's very cut and dry. I'm not sure why
Did not
we
hear
can't.
that. I've not heard anything about that.
Okay, but I'm telling, I was told to, did it happen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. There, it happened. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm trying to keep us out of litigation. I'm trying to keep us out of a lawsuit. I am not trying to argue with anybody. I want this process to go forward. I'm sure City Hall really wants this process to go forward at this point. But I'm telling you that I was told this information.
How come the rest of the commission wasn't told?
Well, how come John
Until
Wheeler
now.
only went to a couple of you? I mean, there you go. I mean, come
John
on.
reached out back in November,
But-
and we talked about this. The foundation reached
You
out.
didn't tell me it was the foundation.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes.
Can I just ask a simple question, and what is the process in deciding where we go from this point, arguments aside?
Now, this is on the table.
Can we, is this still in our hands, or where does this go from here? Who makes
It's
that decision?
all in our hands.
All of us.
So it's
This
up
is the
to
one
all of
employee
us.
that staff does not hire.
Is this a conversation that we discuss and vote on here at a meeting, or is this an
Yes.
executive
We have to
session
do as much publicly as
Okay.
possible.
item? Is this something we can table
This,
for a
honestly,
moment?
this conversation should have happened behind closed doors, honestly. It should have.
No, it needs to be
Because there's some
done
allegations made, this should have
I'm
happened
not
behind
making
closed doors,
allegations.
period.
I mean, it's not an allegation. It happened. An allegation is, I think you might have. I'm just telling you that somebody came to me, that an applicant came to me and told me that this happened. So it is not an
Let's adjourn
allegation.
into executive session so we can discuss this.
Do
That's
we
why I
have to
put
make a
this on.
decision today on how to continue, how to proceed forward?
No, we just get past this item and we adjourn into executive session and we go back and talk about this.
Can we table this then? until
This isn't an action item anyway, is it?
then? Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't
We
let you
can't do
speak.
that.
I'm sorry. I can't let you speak. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Are we
but-
done on this item?
I think we should be for now.
Yeah, I mean, we're done. I guess we're going to adjourn into executive
No,
session.
we
but
still gotta do
I needed
appointments.
that on the record, so it was important to me, and I was told that I needed to speak about it publicly, so.
It's not open to public discussion at this
Sir,
point.
I can't let you speak. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't let you speak. I'm sorry. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
You're going to
item
do the
11?
boards and committees, number 10?
Oh, appointments to boards and committees. Do we have anything?
There's 3.
There are 3 applicants for that item.
I will.
Yes, we can, yes. Sorry.
Dylan, I don't have,
They're in there, it's just,
oh, no, I'm sorry. Hold on just a second. I apologize.
you
Okay.
got 2 for library and 1 for
Yeah, I'm sorry.
SVP council.
I was on the wrong agenda item. Okay, so we have, we're going to move into item 10, appointments to boards and committees. I have 2 applications to the Alamogordo Public Library Board were received. There is 1 vacancy on the board. And I have 1 application to the Senior Volunteer Programs Advisory Council. There are multiple vacancies on the council, and staff recommends 1 appointment to the council. I'm going to just table this until next meeting, because I'm sorry, I studied the agenda pretty good, and apparently I missed appointments to boards and committees, so it's been a week, and it's only Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
So, on that note, I guess we will table this until the next meeting, okay?
Do you need a motion? I guess you really don't need a motion.
Do we need a motion to table it?
We do not. It's in your power specifically to appoint
What I
people.
thought. Okay, all right. Item 11, adjourn into executive closed session in compliance with 10-15-1 to discuss limited personnel matters, the city manager. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Robinson. Can we put up the vote?
And for the record, Commissioner Stephen Burnett will be attending that by phone.
And motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned.